Okay, so we got a report from Jason Schreier here, who has said on a recent Spawn Wave podcast that the next major release from Guerrilla Games is going to be a Horizon game, which is great, but it's going to be Horizon Online, not whatever the third single-player game looks like. That's a quote from Schreier there. So by extension, then, it looks as though the lion's share of Guerrilla's resources has been diverted to this multiplayer effort, and the actual sort of end of the trilogy, assuming it is a trilogy, is going to be like years away. Oliver, you've been following this one. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, on some level, I don't know, just like my first reaction is that this seems kind of crazy to me, but we have Horizon 2, we have Horizon Lego Adventures, we have Horizon 1 Remastered, we have a PS5 Pro patch for Horizon 2, and we also had PS5 back compat enhancements for Horizon 1, plus a Horizon MMO potentially in the works. And all of that work in establishing this franchise, and in particular establishing the story of that first and second game, and then not moving immediately on to a Horizon 3, just seems like kind of a waste to me, possibly. Because you're pummeling people with Horizon 1 and Horizon 2 game content, presumably in anticipation of a sequel, and then that sequel doesn't materialize for a while, right? It might be the better part of half a decade or something until we see the title based off of what's being suggested here. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know, Horizon Online could be integrated in a way that makes more sense. I mean, certainly when you hear about the NCSoft MMO that's allegedly in development as well, it does make more sense. Like as an MMO, it's like an open world game. You have all these cities, you have these quest givers. You could probably adapt the game's combat for tap targeting. You could do lots of different things with it. That makes more sense to me. But I have to presume they have some really compelling gameplay concept. But I do worry maybe this is just another one of those Sony live service games that is headed to the graveyard a little bit, and this is not a great outcome here. But I don't know. I mean, I guess we're going to have to see that game actually what it looks like, but I'm not really seeing a really compelling multiplayer gameplay concept within the kind of Horizon style of title, really.
Alex?
Well, I mean, if you look at, so Concord is them trying to do Destiny Overwatch, even though they own Destiny. This could be their take on survival crafting, which Sony doesn't have a survival crafting game, to my knowledge.
That's sort of what like The Last of Us Factions was about a little bit.
Was it supposed to be that? Oh, wow. Well, I mean, maybe there's a way there that fits in with the tone of the series. I don't know if that's why people go to the series, though. I don't think that is necessarily the angle why people like it. I think the RPG mechanics are not the strongest aspect of Horizon. And like the crafting aspects are not the strongest aspect of the Horizon games. I think people really are attracted to these games for other reasons, perhaps. I also think it's a bit just too much. There is too much of a good thing. And like if you're just constantly reiterating on the same universe, there is a fatigue that can occur in terms of audience wanting to see something else, and also maybe preferring to see these game mechanics in a different environment. Like, for example, whatever this ends up being, why did it need to be a Horizon game other than for brand recognition purposes is another thing. It doesn't interest me based on that. And I also, why push another Horizon game when you could use those resources to push a different game in a new universe, excite people for something new, and then also have Horizon's sequel come out in the future as well too. Half-Life 2, ever since that came out, there's been a lot of things that Valve has done as well, and they haven't made Half-Life 3, but they've also done those things really well. And then when Half-Life 3 comes, it's going to be, all people are going to be all the more excited for it. Same thing on a smaller scale could apply to Horizon, where they do something else in the meantime, and they let the technology churn and the gameplay ideas churn for a Horizon sequel that really makes people very excited. So yeah, I don't know what this is about. doesn't excite me at all. Makes me a little sad, actually.
I think we need to see the game. Ultimately, we have no idea really what we're talking about here. All I can really say is that Guerrilla know what they're doing. And, if you think about the long gestation period of the original Horizon itself, it was like 5 or 6 years. That it was a gigantic project for them. They must have like a whole sort of universe of ideas generated across that time period. I do think that there is ways and means in which you can take the existing technology, enhance it, and add gameplay mechanics that would work in a multiplayer sense. Are we even aware of whether it's like a sort of Destiny game or like an MMO? Has there been any indication at all?
Well, there is an MMO allegedly, or quite close to confirmed, in development at another studio at NCSoft. So I'd presume this is something that's fairly different from an MMO. Otherwise, you'd have some overlap there. But we don't know if it's a co-op experience, if it's competitive, how close it is to that original Horizon. Maybe it's an arena shooter. Maybe it's a Counter-Strike.
Oh, no.
You don't know. Right.
Okay, so maybe there has been sort of some games as a service direction from above, which means that this is what we're getting. But I still think that Guerrilla ultimately know what they're doing, and there must be a reason for this game to exist. I do think they probably have the clout to have said, to have pushed back if it was something that they didn't want to do. So I think we have to give them the time. We have to see the game. I do think it is unfortunate, though, if it means that the ongoing storylines are basically put on hold in favour of this thing. That would be a bit sad from my perspective. We got anything more to add to this before we move on?
Well, the only thing I would say here is that basically when you look at like some other titles that have gone from a little bit of this kind of like really ordinal sequel approach that then something a little bit more off the wall, like kind of with Wolfenstein 2 to Wolfenstein Youngblood. There you have a bit of a different approach. There you have a co-op approach, but it's not totally different. And I kind of wonder here if they could maybe continue that Horizon 2 story a little bit, involve some of the same characters, involve some of the same plot lines, possibly, maybe not a direct sequel in the same way that our Horizon 3 would be, but kind of keep that going a little bit, keep that narrative thrust going to some degree in this title. Again, depending on how it's formatted, because we've seen from Concord that possibly doing a, play-by-play narrative of the week experience is not going to connect with players so well. But if they could find some way to do that in a title that is not so different from that original Horizon concept, that Horizon 1 and Horizon 2 concept, maybe they could do something that kind of satisfies both audiences. That's all I would say here, is that, again, because we don't know. So they could very well be doing something that actually is going to satiate those two groups of people, the people who are interested in a multiplayer title, the people who want a new Horizon title. You never know. And like you said, Rich, I mean, it's Guerrilla. I'm sure they have good reasons for approaching this project and for doing what they're doing at the moment. So we just have to see what they'll deliver. But it certainly is a bit curious, I'd say, if nothing else. That's all.